Welcome back to Timo's Dinky Detailing. Today I'm doing a Dinky 161 Austin Sommerset. I did one before. This is a basket case though. Some child has cut the pillars off of this toy and squashed down the roof. I think he was trying to make it into a chopped hot rod type of car. Maybe he was growing up and he was a little too old for this toy. Looks like it's going to need a lot of work. Mostly the casting is in good shape other than what's been destroyed. So in order to restore this, I'm going to have to bend that thing back and put new posts and raise the roof again. So first step, of course, is to take off the base, and I go in there with a center cutting split point drill and take those rivets off and then pry the base off. I could have done this in the milling machine, but somebody was probably needing quiet upstairs. So I did it the quiet way, which is to do as much as I can by hand or with hand tools. As usual, I take my axles off. This axle is damaged. It's got all kinds of burrs on it, like somebody was grabbing it with pliers or something, and twice. So I have to go in there with a file and clean those burrs off. So I'm not going to reuse this axle. I'm going to have to use another axle that I have in stock. And this other axle is in much better condition. So again, I go with my file. The one end has been ground smooth so it doesn't damage the hubs. And I take those off. I recommend you use a good quality file. I have a Nicholson file, and a small file is not going to work as well. So I've got this as the old Sommerset that I did before, so I can measure the height of the roof, or at least the space in the front window, because here I'm setting up so that I can adjust this thing, and I'm using a C-clamp. And the idea here is, if you try to push this some other way, you could exceed the strength of it and you can break the whole top off. But this one, when I'm turning that C-clamp, if this thing starts to yield, it can't go any further because the C-clamp isn't going to go any further. So it lets me control that process. So here I'm measuring to make sure that I've achieved the right dimension. And that looks a lot better. So here I've got the 3D printer, and this toy is going to get an interior that it never had, so that's what I'm printing here. After printing, it goes into the alcohol. I let it soak in the alcohol a bit, and I brush off from the top of the build plate some of the resin, and I put it into the spray booth because it smells like a lot of alcohol. And there's my interior, and I got to break off all of these supports. So there we have it. And then it goes into the curing station where it has UV light, and it rotates inside there until it hardens after about 3 minutes. And there she is. Seats and everything, and let's see how it fits into the raw casting here. Fits like a glove the first time. Actually, I went in afterwards and I filed some of the corners down. It wasn't exactly perfect, but pretty darn close. And there's the steering wheel that I printed before. So here it gets some primer. This is the white Tamiya primer. Everything gets primered except for stuff that's black. Steering wheel. And here goes recreational white. So I have kind of a tan interior. Now the sheet steel base, I use my parallel pliers, straighten it all out, and for rust, I go straight to the Evapo Rust, super safe rust remover. So far, they're not sponsoring me. Maybe they will someday. Anyway, so it's very safe, but it takes a long time, so I'm going to leave that overnight. So here I'm going in with the hand drill, and I center drill both of those, and then I go in with the tap drill and go on the other one. I'm shortening this up. My videos have been pretty long, and I'm going to give it a try, a little bit shorter video. So some of these processes I'm speeding up quite a bit. You don't need to see me turning the tap all the way in. So there I've got the holes tapped, and in go my 440 button head cap screws. And now time to remove the old paint. I got that far in and I haven't even removed the paint yet. So I'm outside, I put in the boiling water followed by the caustic soda, and then come in and I use the wire wheel on my drill press and bring it up nice and shiny. So now I'm going to make posts. So I scribe a line on here, cut off a piece of aluminum, and then it's saw cut, so I take my file and put it in the vise and I clean up all these edges. Take the burrs off and then do the other edge. A lot of manual work making these parts. Clean up the casting a little bit so that there's a nice flat surface for the glue to take. And then I cut off a piece of the aluminum. I put a piece of tape on the end because it's very short, so I can't hold on to it. I have a big chunk of tape. Even if it flies off out of my hands, it's going to be easy to find on the floor. So I put some masking tape behind it and put it on there, and then some super glue and baking soda, which is the Toy Restorer's magic cement, and it instantly hardens and gives you a nice firm surface, and you can actually build up and model things from it if you need to. So the front pillars. Again, I put the masking tape on the inside, hold it in place, and then go in with my super glue. I wiped away a little bit of the glue because when you have a drop that's going over and then you get that powder on there, you're going to have this lump there that you have to file off. So it's better to go with a little bit less of the super glue so you have less to file off afterwards. So there, it's done, at least on the outside, and I go in and I do the same thing on the inside. So that strengthens it, and then I go in and I file it massively. So I'm using my little Riffler files. These are nice files. they have a curved end, so it gives you a little bit more control, and you're not filing the material around where you need to file. So there we've got posts and pillars all in place, and now I'm looking at the casting and the mold lines. So those go past the headlights, and so this is a painstaking task that took a while, so obviously I've shortened it up quite a bit. But if you don't do this, the casting looks terrible and the paint will never look good. So there I got all those casting lines off of it, and I go on with the Tamiya super fine primer, whatever it's called, fine surface primer. And while I'm at it, I go with the base on a magnet and do the inside first, and then I'll do the outside later. So after putting the primer on, you can see all the flaws. So I go in and I put my Bondo and then go in and sand it. You need to sand it anyway. Whenever you're doing paint and you're doing multiple coats, you need to take all the high points off before you put the next coat. So here's how I found the choice of paint on the internet. That's an original paint scheme, and so I'm going to try and reproduce that. So starting with the light green portion of it. I didn't show mixing up that paint. I don't actually have a video. I don't know why. I forgot to turn the recorder on or something. So while we're at it, it's time to like, share, and subscribe. And make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. And if you share, we might get some more watchers, because I think this is entertaining for all sorts of people. Now we did the inside before, now I do the outside of the base. And this is satin paint, not semi-gloss. I bought semi-gloss and it's too shiny, but the satin paint looks just perfect. So now I go with the green paint and I paint the hubs. I'm not showing both sides, but I had to do the whole thing over again and do the other side. So there's my stick shift, and I put a nice russet colored knob on it and my black steering wheel, and the interior is ready. So now this paint, it looks like I'm doing this all in an hour or two, but this is about 4 or 5 days later. I want to make sure that my paint has cured and hardened before I start putting tape on it, and there's a lot of tape to do this. It's a lot of work, so there it happens just in a couple seconds. Now this looks like blue on my screen, but it's actually metallic green. It's a bit bluish green, but it matches the color that was on the original car, only it's metallic. And it's actually a beautiful paint, and it's green, not blue, but I can't find any way to correct it on my camera or on the screen, so you'll just have to take my word for it. In the end, it does look like green when it's up beside the other green. Nice thing about these metallic paints from Mr. Hobby and also Vallejo, they spray extremely well. I'm going in with light coats at first. It also helps with the tape line. If you put a light coat, it doesn't have a chance to bleed under the tape. So when you go to put your final wet coat, it won't bleed under the tape. So a lot of tape here. And again, I've speeded it up for you. You just see each piece being torn off. And it makes for more compelling video. Lots of little bits of tape. Even in this fast process, it takes a while to take all that tape off. And last of all is the piece of paper towel inside that lets the interior stay light green. So detailing, I'm putting my license plates. Again, I'm putting first a blank white background. I don't have the capability of printing white onto my Decal material. And then I put a clear Decal as the number plate. And then the numbers are transparent, so the white has to show through if you want to have white letters on it. So now this is the orange for the indicator lights on top of the fenders. I'm going to do all the detailing that doesn't include the chrome, except in this case because the taillights have a chrome surround. And the reason I don't do most of the chrome on these models is because I want to clear coat after I've put the decals on, and after I've put the colored paint like the tail lights and the indicator lights. And then I'll clear coat it and then do the chrome looking stuff after I've clear coated it, because the chrome paint does not like the clear coat much, and it loses its chrome look. So you have to do the chrome last. We've got tail lights and indicators. Now because it's a metallic paint, I've tested it on spoon, but this premium clear coat makes a much better surface on top of the metallic paint. So I have to use this when I'm using metallic paint. It comes in a smaller can, so it's more expensive, but this is my first can. I don't use it that often. I only use it now when I'm doing metallic paint. So that winds up looking really awesome. Actually, when paint first went on, it didn't look great, and I left it for a few hours, and then it smoothed right out. It was brilliant. So here I've cut out, you've seen, if you're watching my videos, you've seen this trick before. I'm not happy trying to paint these circles around, like the trim ring around the headlights. I would rather tape it up. So that's what I've been doing. I punch hole into some tape and put that over top of the headlights, and it gives me a decent edge, although this chrome paint wants to go under the tape definitely, so it's not perfect, but it's better than if I tried to do the whole thing by hand. There it looks like I'm peeling it off when the paint's wet, but no, I just had the thing paused and went for coffee and came back later when it was dry enough to take the tape off. So this has very interesting chrome pieces on the front of the car, so it's kind of fun to do, and it makes it kind of spectacular at the end because of all these little bits of chrome. This looks fantastic. I do as much of these bumpers as I can with the actual pen, because when you come straight from the pen, the paint stays moist, and this stuff becomes shiny only if it's really fresh out of the container when you put it on. So here I go, I've got these nice detailing brushes that my sister-in-law gave me for Christmas, and they're doing a fantastic job. So I've got a whole arsenal of paint brushes now, and I use different brushes for different purposes as I discover which ones work and what they work best at. So this is obviously not coming out like an original Dinky toy. It's a resto mod for sure. It's more coming out like the real car looked. So now the trick I like to do is after I've done silver on the headlights, I leave the trim silver and I paint the headlight itself with white, and it gives you the impression like the headlights are on. I like it. I think it gives it a really nice look. Put a little bit thicker so that it covers, so that the silver isn't showing through. So it's almost like a big blob of white paint on top, and it winds up looking really good. I swear half the job is detailing these toys. So I get my axles ready. I'm putting a little dimple on the end. You've seen me do this before, and I'm shortening up the video for it. I loosen off the collet, and there we've got a little dimple, and then I buff the axles up on the buffing wheel, and then it's ready for assembly. So I've got my painted hubs, I've got my tires that are O-rings, and these vice grips have a groove in the jaw, and then I hammer front and back. I hammer that down and it makes a decent looking mushroom, and there we go, and it rolls. Now this one's going to get a windshield. I've tried different ways of getting a windshield. The easiest way is to buy one from Steve Flowers, but these toys never had windshields, so I have to come up with something. I've tried various different methods, and so far the easiest way to do it, and it gives me the best results, is to cut out, I make a paper pattern, and then I cut out this plastic from commercial packaging that's on various different packages, and in this case I'm not even gluing it in, because I discovered if I cut it right, I can just put the interior in and it holds the windshield in place. Then my screws that got painted during the painting of the body, I go back in, and the toy is ready. So let's remind you what it looked like before. So here's the toy. The child probably had this toy for a very long time, and eventually he got bored with just the ordinary toy, so he wanted to make it look into a hot rod or something, chopped it all up. Let's see what it looks like now. Well, that's a pretty spectacular difference. This toy looks better than it ever did. It's got two-tone paint that the original car actually came in from the factory. This is probably a more luxurious version, the more expensive version, because most of them were just single color. And I've put the license plates and extra detailing that Dinky would never have done, and I put an interior and I put windows. So this is it's modified quite a bit, but I think it looks fantastic, especially when you consider what a basket case it was. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Timo's Dinky Detailing as much as I enjoyed doing it. We'll see you next time. Till then, be seeing you.